Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tesla Life version 147, I believe. And that music just keeps going.
we should change our version numbers to be like Tesla release numbers.
That's right.
20.19.4.
And everyone will go, what is that? I don't understand that. So here we are, the 6th of May, 2020. So still social distancing. Everyone's really used to it now. In fact, all the days are just kind of melding into one. We just don't know where we are, what's going on. But welcome to the show. Got a ton of stuff to go through today. But first, let's introduce the panel. Mr. Kacey Green joins us from the DC area. How are you today, sir?
I'm pretty excited. I've got a software update in the queue, and I don't know what it is because the card's not on Wi-Fi, so I got to go out and touch it to see what version.
That's right. You've got social distance between your car because you've got a further parking spot away.
Yeah. Got to keep all the viruses off your car.
That's what the bioweapon defense filter is for.
That's right. Also joining us as per usual, Mr. Patrick Connor from the Washington State area. How are you today?
Little south of Washington State.
Oregon.
Yes,
Oregon. I get the two.
We love our Pacific Northwest brothers up there, so that's fine, brothers and sisters. Yeah, so welcome to the Tesla Life, everybody, where we are helping to bring in a fossil fuel-free future. Say that 5 times real fast.
That's right. We got to put that on a business card or something. That'd be good. Yeah. Well, we got a ton of news. As per regular, Tesla never sleeps. Even if it is a slow week, they still produce a ton of news that just keeps on flowing. And we're going to start this week off in space. Yes, indeed. NASA has selected SpaceX as one of 3 to develop a human lunar lander program. So they have selected 3, one of them being Blue Origin with a number of partners, another one being a group that has like 17 partners all rolled into one, and then there's SpaceX. We have the press release with the link in the notes for the show. You can go and see the others, the different styles. But really, this is what's interesting here is that SpaceX is going with the Starship as the lunar lander. Some modifications obviously will be made so it can land on the moon's surface. There's questions about what's the kick-up of dust going to be like if Starship, that large rocket, is to land and take off from the moon's surface. So we've got a few different, challenges to overcome. But it was interesting to see that they've been pushed into the arena of the 3, and now they have to develop the details of the plan as to how it's going to operate, what it's going to do, and come up with some operational experiments to show how this will best suit NASA's planned manned missions to the moon again.
That's very exciting. Going back to the moon, that has... I was too young or not yet born when that was happening, and so it'll be nice to actually see it. That's really awesome.
Yeah, so that will be interesting to see. Kacey, you're just switching things around us. He's playing with backgrounds, folks. That's cool. So it'll be interesting to see how that progresses. Certainly, the Starship program. All 3 different programs were given an allotment of money to design and to come up with the different procedures that they're going to put in place to make this successful. And SpaceX got the smallest amount. So I don't know how all that works, but some of the things that SpaceX have to overcome besides the actual moon landing would be that refueling in space, where the ships would pivot, connect at the bottoms for refueling. So that's another thing they're going to have to prove as to win this competition. So it'll be interesting to see how that progresses.
The good thing with that is they've already got some money for that. I don't remember if it was a grant or a competition for them to practice in space refueling.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So now they've got some more money for that.
Yeah, I'm sure they have really smart rocket scientists working on this, but it seems weird to me that you would put the hot ends together where all the flamey parts come out. How about just going next to each other and having a little cord there? But like I said, they're rocket scientists. They know what they're doing, but that just doesn't seem like the right way to my naive first thought.
Yeah, you don't want to put the hot ends together and then transfer fuel through both hot ends. Like, it just does not make sense, does it?
Yeah, so let's throw the rocket fuel right past the flames.
I think that it might be on like a pipe on one of the edges, like in the skin or something. But
we're hoping they've thought this through. Yes.
They have. Yeah.
Also, this week we've got a released image from actual Tesla. They released some images of the Model Y's back end and comparing it to the Model 3. And I want to say this is a little bit anticlimactic because, of course, we've been watching Sandy Munro rip apart a Model Y now for 2.5, 3 weeks. And he got to that last week and showed us the differences and what's going on and the different types of the die cast that's being used in the Model Y compared to the 70 parts that are put together in the Model 3. Tesla got around to actual official images released, but we were already aware of that. So not a big surprise on that end.
And they'd already told us that they were going to do one piece as well when Sandy and Elon were talking on that other podcast.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're on a podcast like the Tesla Life, you're probably following this stuff pretty closely. But if you're just, I mean, that was their shareholder letter, so for normal mere mortals who aren't following this every day, that was probably news to them. It's there's a special group of us that are fixated with this stuff and
a little bit off the. Go ahead, say it. A little bit off the deep end. Yeah.
Also, for the folks that Elon called the askers of bonehead, boring questions.
For all the muggles out there, yeah.
So that was. You can actually see those images. It's attached to our Twitter feed. Speaking of the Twitter feed, I've got a fantastic image to share with you guys today that was caught in the streets of Montreal. Well, I'm thinking it's Montreal. It's definitely Quebec. Based on what it looks like. Could be Montreal, maybe Quebec City.
Mark, do you want me to talk about something else while you got your Twitter up? No, go ahead.
It'll be short, Patrick. So here we've got an actual image of a fishing rod off of the 3rd floor pushing down the cable for charging for this gentleman's Model 3 sitting on the streets.
So pretty cool.
Avoiding the problem of laying a cable across the sidewalk and having a tripping hazard, this gentleman decided to go fishing and help himself out to a charge in this unique way. Again, I'm not sure if this would work for the city bylaw officers, but it looks like a pass for me.
That is very clever. Yep.
Patrick, you've got an update for us, an actual a video that others could watch as well.
Oh, right. Okay, so recently, Kacey and I were on a special episode of What Drives Us to talk about Tesla's earnings. And this was, at first I thought it was going to be just a one-on-one with Russell, the host of that show, and myself. And then he opened it up to a few others, and one of the people that joined that was a well-known Tesla skeptic, and we have fundamental different worldviews, especially around Tesla, and it was very animated at times, and came to some loud, heated discussion, let's just say, and so it was quite interesting. If you're into conflict, I guess that might be something you want to check out. So I don't want to go into too much detail. I'm not going to steal the thunder of that show, but like we were talking about Tesla profitability, and then the question came up, well, what about all the regulatory credits they're getting? And a lot of businesses get regulatory credits. Certainly the fossil fuel industry gets a ton of them. Farmers get them. It's just so what? That's the rules of the game, and they're playing by those rules, and they were profitable. So to discount their profitability on that, I thought was irrelevant. Then the next question was, well, what's their PE ratio? It's incredibly high. They're market darlings. It's not based on their fundamentals. It's based on the market's expectations for their future performance. And when you have a company like this that has a really exciting roadmap and potential for great future products and profits, then of course it's not going to be something that if you apply value-based investing metrics to Tesla, it's not going to look attractive at all. It will look like a crazy investment. So again, true but not relevant, just like the last comment. And we started talking about their stop sign new feature, and how this is a great safety feature. If that stops a car from running an intersection that otherwise would have, because you weren't paying attention or you were on autopilot or something else, that's great. And oh no, that's a huge safety problem. Well, we have an article coming up about safety and Tesla's safety numbers, and if you had real evidence showing that these features were causing safety problems, then great, that needs to be addressed. If you just have speculation, anytime you have a person behind the wheel, that person has to be responsible for that vehicle. We don't have level 4, level 5, where you can just go to sleep. And sure, there's anecdotes of people abusing it. There are anecdotes of people abusing cars with absolutely no automation in them. Falling asleep behind the wheel, having medical problems, being drunk, whatever. And those are tragic. And these are the sorts of safety features that can help prevent those things. So they absolutely are, I think, are a plus. And Tesla safety record shows it. So we have, anyway, this goes on and on like this. I think that I have a view of the future where electric vehicle sales are going to continue to increase. By 2030, 2040, they will be a majority of sales, and Tesla will be the majority of that electric vehicle sales because they have the best product by lots and lots of different measures. And we don't need to, everybody listening to this show understands that, how great of a product that they have, and how the people who own those love it because it's fun to drive. I mean, it's exciting, and you get software updates, and it's connected, and you're getting new features, and no one is doing things like Tesla's doing. We just talked about the casting. That is not exactly impossible for anybody else. Metal casting is not something that was just invented. It's not artificial intelligence. So why hasn't anybody else done that? They certainly could have. Tesla pushes the envelope. We talked about how artificial intelligence develops, and I've started sharing a few things on our Facebook page about AI developments, and how it's really cool how they have these games playing these AIs playing these old Atari games, and at first they're horrible, and then it's a step change in just how much they improve once they figure out some stuff. And the same sort of thing is going to happen. You can't look at where it is now and just draw linear extrapolation to where it'll be next year. Things take jumps in unexpected ways, and it's really cool. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say about that. If you are interested in it, check it out. We'll have a link to it in our show notes there.
Absolutely. And as Patrick has mentioned, just something to keep in mind, all evolution in human terms has always been that we stand on the shoulders of those before us. So people that come up with an idea, a new way of doing things, something that is better, everyone incorporates that into their next work. And that's how things progress. So you're right. At the beginning, it may look shoddy. It may look questionable as to whether or not you could ever use that in the way that you're supposed to. But with those wins that come from many different camps, everyone uses those things and progresses the technology faster and forward to get better. So just the way it is.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. As Patrick mentioned, our next story is dovetails about the Autopilot safety report that Tesla has been releasing every quarter. And just like previous quarters, this quarter was record results for safety as well. So another notch as they're looking at cars that are using Autopilot and comparing it to cars that don't, and of course the national averages for a car crashes. And Tesla has stepped up again, and it's another win for safety. Not only for safety with Autopilot, but also, of course, as we've talked about in this show before, the features that come with the car standard as well. Things about like stopping if a person jumps in front of the car. Those type of automations are also part of this whole package. So it's great to see that these numbers continue to get better, and hopefully next quarter we'll go up another rung or a rung and a half on the safety ladder.
Yeah, these numbers especially I think were important because we've talked about how Teslas are safer in general, and Ed Niedermeyer's been on another show with us discussing that, where he said, oh, but you're comparing it to the fleet average, and the fleet average includes a lot of older cars and used cars and people who, if you're just comparing it to luxury, blah, blah, blah. And here, what this is showing Tesla's numbers relative to Tesla's old numbers. So you can't make any of these arguments that, oh no, well it's compared to others, this and that. This is showing their vehicles getting better. Period. It's awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
They make a great co-pilot.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Another story that we have it kind of came out of left field. We've heard about this company before, Mountain Pass Performance. They've done, for example, their principal has done racing at Laguna Seca in a Model 3 Performance. He's actually even holds some track records. His company, based outside of Barrie, Ontario, I believe, has, of course, produced some components for the Model 3 for suspension, better braking, racing, braiding for the brake hoses, other things that they've done, springs, other things to make the car a more potent racer. And what came out of left field this week is that their group has put together I guess it's an interface for a video game that you can now race the Model 3 on a number of different tracks with the help of and I don't know this particular piece of software, but Assetto and Discord. Do you guys have any clue as to what are those? I guess basic interfaces, or?
Well, Discord is a communications platform, and I'm guessing Assetto is either a modding or the actual game.
Okay. So they'd indicate that they've built the specs on the Model 3 that go into these software packages, and then they've already hosted a couple of virtual races where they've had up to 28 people get into their Model 3s virtually and race around the track. And this has happened now a couple times. I'm going to share the link in the notes, and if you have interest, because they indicate that you need a racing wheel to really get into it. But apparently there's no charge for it, and they're rolling this out as time goes along. They're even asking for some programming help to maybe put in some new cars. So this will be interesting to see if this continues along. So if you have some interest, certainly look into the notes and go into the links to get some more detail.
Assetto Corsa is a racing sim by an Italian video game developer.
Right, yep, that's what I was just looking at too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they've written an add-on piece to an existing racing car program that probably adds the look and the feel of the Model 3 and allows it to be selected from within the race.
Yep, and then they'd use Discord to set up either text or video, or not video, but audio chat with everybody in the race.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
This is pretty cool. I'm looking at they have schedules. So they have practice rounds, qualifying rounds, races, qualifying races, and you have to make it into you have to do so well, place at a certain level to make it to the next part of the schedule. This is really, really cool. When you can't take your car out to the track because we're all in home shelter at home, this is a pretty cool way to do it.
And the tracks are closed.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So if you still want to have some fun, here you go. Here's an option.
And it's a lot safer and a lot less chance of getting a ticket than what Brooks is doing.
Yeah. 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 If you hit a guardrail, it doesn't come with a big bill.
Yeah, you're not gonna get a paint scratch in virtual racing. You don't have to worry about that kind of stuff, or catch somebody else's tire as they come around the corner. Actually, I've got a photo here that I can share of the realistic look of the Model 3 inside the actual race. Let me just share that with the group. There we go. So you can see there's the Model 3 in a pit stop. Looks like it's got a little modification to the wing that we normally see on a Tesla.
Oh, yeah. Definitely a few changes to that vehicle.
Bit of a wheel tail. Yeah.
That too. If this is the group I think it is, they have a couple videos where they go into like their suspension and their braking, and it's pretty cool stuff.
I would love to give this a round. That looks fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, Kacey.
Speaking of performance.
Yeah.
So speaking of performance, on that same conference call, Elon told us that he believes that the Model S, as spec today, would achieve 400 miles of range per charge. And he says the reason they did not is because the EPA left the door open and the keys in the car the night before the test. The EPA says, "Nuh-uh," and Elon says, "We've got the receipts." And then that's where we stand right now, waiting to see if they back down from their claim that they didn't make a small mistake, or what, because I mean we know these cars are rolling computers and they track everything, and so it's reminiscent of the people who run into buildings with their Teslas and then claim they didn't do anything wrong.
Well, I mean, maybe they shut the door behind them and it didn't quite close all the way, and they thought they closed it, and so yeah.
The key was still inside.
Yeah, they can argue back and forth, but let's just get it retested and find out, and we'll know for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, even if there's nobody in the car and the door is shut and the key is inside, it's not at the same level of sleep that it is with the key away from the car and the door shut.
Why wasn't it plugged in all night?
Yeah.
That would have... If you're going to test the car the next day, charge it overnight. It's not that hard. Come on, guys.
Yeah, there could be a little bit of a vampire loss in the battery.
On a Tesla, guaranteed.
Yeah. So why would they not have it plugged into the level 2 until it was ready for the test?
Level 2, level 1, whatever they put their meter on, because they do measure the current that goes in.
Yeah.
And then how much it takes to refill
it. Was interesting in the actual article that the EPA said, they said, we did the testing with the door shut. And I'm thinking, that's not the problem.
Yeah.
That's not the problem. The problem is not that the door was shut during testing. It was that it was left open overnight.
Right.
See, so there's highway testing, city testing, and now door open testing.
Apparently so, yeah.
That'd give the NTSB yet another target for the other government agencies to go after.
Yeah, so that was kind of an interesting comment I read in one of the stories. So, yeah, we'll have to see if the logs are presented to the EPA so they can look down the list and see the exact times that the door opened, the door closed, and, of course, the key fob that was in play was left in the vehicle. So, yeah, let's get it retested. That would fix this real quick.
Add them to the list with Apple, Tesla, the NTSB, or NHTSA, because NTSB was going after. Yeah, it was fun. Add the EPA to the list.
And honestly, 391, 400. I know there's a mental milestone there. 400 is like something that's really going to make people pay attention. But 391 is awesome. So
nothing to complain about.
Nobody else is doing it yet.
It's always ticking that even number above that. It clicks in people's heads. And of course, I've heard many people say, "Oh, 400 miles! I would love 400 miles." And I'm thinking, man, I love 300 miles. It's just fine for me. Like never get near that unless I'm in a cross-country trip. I never come near those type of numbers.
Right.
And who
Even
wants
do
to sit in
300.
the car for 400 miles before you do a charge? Like there are limits as to what the human body can take. Maybe some are better than others, but man, 300 works for me. But hey, 400, okay, that's great. That's
300.
great.
What luxury.
Yeah.
Mine is rated at 289. It's never seen that.
Yeah, well, I'm
That's
even
no
lower than that.
slouch either. 289. Like, come on.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
think I do 280, but yeah.
yeah, I've got about 245 now in mine. But before that, I had the Leaf, and the Leaf started at 72 and was down to about 45. And before that, I had a truck that had about 20 miles of electric range. So
Yeah,
Exactly.
that truck was a special case.
yeah, so I
And
went from 20 to 70 to 250, and that just shows the progress of the technology over time, and that's great.
and both Casey and I have moved from the lower version of an electric vehicle as well. And it's like once you get the new one, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't even have to charge this all week. I'll just let it sit in the driveway. I don't have to charge it nightly. That all goes out the window
Yeah.
because there's such an extension of range with the newer vehicles. So I have no doubt that someone will at some point just they'll shove off 300. Oh, that's so low. I couldn't live with that. 300. That's terrible.
It
Terrible.
is, but like
If
when
I
I
don't
see,
get 650, I'm not even going to play the game. I can see that's coming.
I have to outlast a fully fueled Prius. but I mean, when mine says 40, I'll still go out and run errands and stuff. I just don't want to leave it parked in the red overnight.
Yeah. And it's nice that there's options because
Yeah.
when the technology is capable of 400, that also means that you can make a 100-mile range vehicle for a much more affordable price. So, and that's what we need is a whole spectrum of choices so that there are going to be people who want to be able to haul and tow, and they're going to need 200 kilowatts or hours or whatever. And then there are going to be people who want an errand runner around commuter mobile, and they're going to want something very affordable. So the fact that you can do 400 means that it opens up more possibilities for more vehicles at more price points, and that's great for everybody.
Yep.
Yeah. You hear that, Tesla? Model 2, we're saying. That's what we're saying. Model 2. World car. It's coming. Hopefully.
Yeah, I've heard other people call it Model 2 also, and that just doesn't seem... So 3 was nice because it was, in some respects, the third part of their master plan. So it just seemed 4, but that's bigger. They're not going to call it either of those, so...
0.25.
Yeah, they're going to have a cool name.
They're probably done with Model Star.
Yeah, Model Blah, I think, is done. Cybertruck killed
Cybertruck,
that. Now
Semi,
I
Roadster,
broke the mold there.
ATV.
Yeah.
Next, Tesla during the Q1 earnings call that just recently happened. I wanted to just touch on this point. They pulled in a record $358 million paid to them by other automakers. So, as you know, with requirements around the world for emission standards, different automakers, if they don't get to their goal, they have basically two choices. They can pay somebody else for the credits that has them to give, or B, they can pay a massive fine. So what has come to light in previous quarters is that a number of other automakers, actually it was last year, it was found out through some different means that FCA and GM actually purchased credits from Tesla. Now, we don't know if that's the case in this particular quarter, but they got a record $354 million from other automakers buying those ZEV credits and zero emission credits for other parts of the world was sold. So looks like, well, and obviously Tesla's got nothing to do with these credits except sell them. Because when you have a zero emission vehicle, you're not getting dinged at any point because there are no emissions to be penalized. So they have to sell them. And of course, this market's been up and down depending on the year, what credits are available to be sold, to be picked up. The market dictates the price. And in this case, they got basically a windfall for quarter 1. So hopefully a few more quarters of this will be able to help their bottom line as well.
Yep, and it'll be even nicer when they actually put that money in the bank. And I mean, the investors would be mad at them for wasting them. So I mean, they don't, like you said, they don't really have a choice not to get rid of them.
Yeah, but here's the interesting part: these other automakers, instead of giving Tesla money, why aren't they making electric vehicles with that money? Funding their own products, funding their own development, and even if they're pushing out compliance vehicles to avoid the fines, that still moves the whole market forward. I mean, no offense, I don't mind them giving Tesla the money because I know Tesla's going to do the right thing with it. That's awesome. But we know that electric vehicles are the future transportation. It's not going to be fuel cells for personal transportation, hydrogen. It's not going to be clean diesel. It's not going to be. It's not possible to make an internal combustion engine that's going to get 120 miles per gallon, which is the MPGe of electric vehicles. And they've had over 100 years, and the original Model T got 25 miles per gallon, and that's about the corporate fleet average is not a whole lot better than that. So it just seems silly to me to not invest in the future.
Well, we have seen with other automakers that some don't even want to deal with the problem. It just seems that they are in a state of denial, or that they know that the corporate architecture for their company is that they get swept out after 4 or 5 years, and it's no longer their problem. There's no need to turn the entire company on its head, fight tooth and nail for their entire tenure there, and maybe not even be successful. They'd rather just collect the money and leave after 3 or 4 years.
That's perfectly reasonable. If you're a CEO and you know that you are going to be leaving in 5 years with a golden parachute if you can make the company profitable, why would you invest in something that will necessarily not be profitable for 2 or 3 or 4 years? Just kick that can down the road and cash your check.
And this is why you see the incentive structure that Tesla has for their leadership, to incentivize them to do
to push
the right thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is also why we see the revenue from this particular stream go up and down, because like if they sell a lot of compact cars, or if they happen to blow out their compliance car division on the other automakers, then they have to buy less credits from Tesla, or they could buy them from somebody that's not out to put them out of business. Not that Tesla's trying to put them out of business, but the product is, by its very nature,
is doing it on their behalf. Yes.
Yeah.
Our next story is it's a little bit confusing. We had during the earnings call again, there was a question proposed to Elon about why is Tesla selling battery packs to utilities when the utilities are using that to make an immense amount of money for themselves with the power switching, the balancing, things of that nature. And basically Elon had replied back, listen, we got no brain space to do this. We have no interest in opening up another can of worms. We got so much on our plates that we've got enough to deal with at this point. Now, this story came out in the UK, and basically it was about Tesla basically applying to the UK Regulatory Commission about becoming a utility for the use of a product called Autobidder.
Yes.
Did you guys hear about this?
I did. Yeah. So Autobidder is a software platform that understands whatever region it's being deployed in, all the local laws and regulations about power distribution, and when there's a peak load demand, how much is that? What's the cost of that to spin up some normally offline generator, and whether or not it would make sense to sell power into the grid from some other source, like say batteries. And it's some really great software. I think it was primarily developed for southern Australia, but they've grown it and are now starting to use it in other places. This is really, One of the question that I heard was that they were saying, why don't they buy peaker plants and shut them down and replace them? And why would you buy some brownfields and go through that when you can instead just deploy your own and do this like they're talking about? This is an awesome idea. I've been wondering about we've seen virtual distributed power companies where they install power walls on a whole lot of different homes. If you have this software that is running over all of those, that can and Tesla owns those battery packs that are on these 50,000 homes or whatever it is, you can coordinate which ones are feeding the grid, which ones are running the house locally, which ones are being charged with solar. You can do all kinds of it takes a vast amount of software to be able to do this. And if you look at the Wright brothers, Elon's cousins that started Solar Cities, those guys were database folks. And that's what you need to have a distributed energy company, is people who really understand that sort of technology. And certainly they're not with Tesla Energy anymore, but the bones of that are all still there. And Tesla is a technology company. Writing awesome software that can manage 100,000 devices, no problem. They're collecting data from over 1 million vehicles on the road today. So they know how to do that kind of stuff. This is a great potential for a new market for Tesla, and opens up all kinds of exciting ways. Especially, they've been talking about the 1 million mile battery coming. Well, what's so awesome about that is it doesn't have degradation when you do full cycle charges on it. So today, if you want to cycle batteries a lot, you should stay in the, depending on who you read, 80 to 20% or 70 to 30% for maximum lifespan. Well, the 1 million mile battery, you can do 0 to 100 without significant degradation. So they could really. I'm excited for Battery Day. I hope they announce something about it.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
You said one thing and I just went crazy. I'm excited about this. It's
Pandora's box just exploded all over the screen. Yeah, it is interesting to see that. I guess they have to become a utility in the UK in order to sell this power back to the grid. So they're in a sense becoming a power company, basically, so they can use the software to offload this onto the grid, get paid for it, and then of course do it again. So not a utility in the traditional sense that they're going to be supplying a whole bunch of homes, but what they're basically doing is getting a regulation so they can actually sell power to the grid and be compensated for it.
Right. I started looking at this when they announced the mega packs, and they also talked about this when they, the semi, they were saying they were going to build out the mega chargers for the semis, and that they were going to have solar and battery at those locations. And they said they were going to charge something like 7 cents a kilowatt hour to fuel these vehicles. And I was like, that's lower than most residential. How are they going to do that? And so I started looking into, if they have batteries, they can buy it off peak, even in addition to the solar that they would be getting, for free after they pay for the installation. And they were buying in bulk. There were times where you could buy off peak at 2 cents a kilowatt hour, and I was shocked to see that. And if they can store it in their own batteries, they can sell it at 7 cents and still make a profit. They can sell it back to the grid when the grid has peak demand, requests it at 20 cents a kilowatt, because kicking on a diesel generator is pretty expensive, and they can do it in milliseconds instead of minutes. Yep. So I mean, there's so many advantages that they have when they're able to do this, and it's pretty exciting.
In fact, it's
speaking of the time to respond. You mentioned milliseconds versus minutes. They were actually losing great amounts of money in South Australia because the utility system that they were hooked into measured in 5 or 10 minute increments, and they were responding in milliseconds to the demands from the system.
And I know in the North American grid market, there are sometimes, as Patrick had said, 2 cents a kilowatt. I know there are points where it's negative.
Wow.
Utilities will pay you to take the energy off their hands for a short period of time because they need it to balance the system. So there are some points when they will pay you to take the electricity. Yep. So it's all across the board, and being able to respond in a quick manner in milliseconds certainly bodes well for somebody that can do that.
Yeah. That's even better if you can get paid to take it and then sell
and then
it.
use it. Yeah, save it till
Awesome.
tomorrow and then sell it at 20 cents a kilowatt to somebody else. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Next, we've got again this ongoing saga that we know that Tesla is getting ready to make their own batteries. They've been testing for a while. They've been secretly in Fremont at their headquarters. They've been testing with different machinery, different chemistries. This story about them purchasing a whole whack of new equipment from a South Korean company, again, rolls into this that the tests must be successful because they're starting to ramp up. This equipment now is being purchased, and the only real use for this type of equipment is mass producing batteries. So this is something that goes along that narrative that Tesla is spooling up. They're getting ready to produce their own batteries, which we've all known. And of course,
Roadrunner. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And something like this is certainly Tesla with being likes to control their own vertical companies like the seats and the other things they produce inside the factory. Why would you not produce the main component of your car, the most expensive component of the car, the most technologically advanced component of your car, have it all under your roof? So this story, of course, is pointing that direction that Tesla definitely is ramping this up. And at some point, we're going to have a battery pack that's completely produced by Tesla.
Right, and they just posted 3 job listings on their website, and we shared that on the Tesla Life Facebook page, so that if that's a field you're interested in, you can go help make a better future. There you go.
Yeah. Next story is a little bit of a cautionary tale. Apparently, someone, of course, the used market for Tesla parts is a lot of people out there looking for used parts, not just rich rebuilds who takes cars right from the swamp and fixes them, but there's many people that are looking to get their hands on different parts. And recently, a buyer of these parts through eBay was able to buy a couple of main information screens, the computer that's attached to it, the center infotainment center, the MCU. Yep. And they discovered, surprisingly enough, that the actual unit, when powered up, still contained the information from the previous owner. So phone records or the homeowner's address, the business address, where they work, all these things that you normally use in your car haven't been wiped effectively. So it is a cautionary tale that people that are getting their MCU replaced, or maybe people that are moving from the 2.5 computer to the 3 computer, you may want to think about sensitive information that's on your car before you hand it into Tesla, because there are cases, and this obviously proves it in a couple of cases anyways, that information may not get wiped properly or wiped at all, and that may go out to a gray market where who knows who will receive it and who knows what they will do with that information. So it might be something to consider if you are getting that MCU upgrade in the future. Devise a plan that you're going to get rid of things before you give it to Tesla to actually do the swap. Now, of course, they're not blind. They're seeing these articles. They see what's going on. I'm sure they will try to double down on effectively wiping this stuff out before it's resold to the gray market. But just a cautionary tale for those people out there that are switching. You may want to think about this before you drop the car off. You may also want to question the Tesla staff and say, listen, I've heard this has happened. I just really want to make sure that you wipe mine out before it's given. Maybe that would be something, of course, to be re-mentioned in your service appointment. But this has happened, so keep an eye on this.
Or if you got a couple extra grand, you could ask for the core return and not return it. Just keep your computer. This affects the MCU replacements for warranty and the MCU 1 to 2 upgrades on Model S and Model X, and then all computer swaps on Model 3, either MCU or FSD, because they are a combined package on that car. They are still separate boards, but in the interest of labor charges, Tesla's not going to sit there and decouple the two boards. That's on site. They're going to do that if they do it at all at the factory. And as we're seeing right now, they're kind of ending up in the dumpster. So,
right, and like you said, there it looks like from the article that I read, Tesla's been doing something to try to make them unusable. Like they would either drill holes in them or hit them with a hammer so they were broken, and then they go in the dumpster. And there are people dumpster diving. And sure, the whole thing may not be functional, but if you can pull the storage unit out and read that, that's where the privacy problem comes in. Yeah. So we're going to go get the FSD computer sometime this year when we all get out of lockdown. And I'm in no hurry because we're not driving anyway. But when I do, I plan on doing a factory reset before I drive off to the service center. So the only address it'll have in there is the Tesla Service Center, so I'll use that to navigate there. And sure, it means I'm going to lose all my progress on Stardew Valley, but...
Actually, oh, you can do a full reset. Yeah, I was going to say, if you just delete your phone and your addresses, they can transfer that over. But yeah, if you factory reset it, it's going to be gone.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could just eliminate the things that I'm more worried about, but I think factory reset is just the safest way to go.
It's the safest way, because you've still got your logins for your services. A couple of the services are actually stored in plain text at the moment. Was it Spotify?
Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah, I listened to the Internet of Things podcast because I love tech, and they were talking about how a lot of things are storing in clear text, and how they expect this year for that to radically change, that all memory is going to be encrypted, and it's just, there's been so long where it's just, okay, let's just get this working, and no one's going to hack into this. Well, that's no longer the case, and these are connected cars, like you said, there's replacement parts. They just need to encrypt everything. Nothing should ever be stored in the clear. This is 2020. That's you guys have heard of hackers, right? I mean, come on. That's a 1995 movie with Angelina Jolie.
That was a pretty good movie. A little cheesy,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
On to our next story. Casey's got an update from our favorite teardown artist.
Yes. So Mr. Munro has done something. Was it this today? Yes,
today. Yep,
that
today.
He's never done before. He has recommended a Tesla vehicle on his own, like without being prompted and pushed and poked and prodded. Like, hey, I'm going to buy an EV and I'm going to spend this much and I'm thinking about this. And then he's like, well, it has to be the Model 3. No, if you're looking for a car in this price range, Mr. Munro says, get you a Model Y. And so that's pretty cool. And in the video,
knows the good and the bad and the ugly better than anybody else out there. So that's awesome.
This is for sure. Yeah. So in today's video, he and his wife took a ride around town, and you could tell he was enjoying himself driving that Model Y Performance.
Yeah, he was enjoying throttling away from the other cars around him. In fact, he wished he'd run into a Mustang GT or something to really show what the car could do. But it was interesting in the video as well, which a link will be in the notes. But he did put it on autopilot and then proceeded just to ramble about the car and its abilities. And his hands were not on the wheel the entire time. Of course, the car started to beep and alerted him that he has to put his hands on the wheel, and he ignored it. And he just kept going along, and by the end segment of the video, you noticed that the car was about to put him into autopilot jail. The screen came up with the red steering wheel. So
hands.
he got pushed into autopilot jail for his recommendation. It was kind of funny watching that. But yeah, it was interesting. Certainly, Mr. Munro's. It's been fun watching over the past 3 weeks the different aspects of tearing down a Model Y and what it has involved. So we certainly thank him for doing that, because we've all enjoyed it over this time period.
Yeah, cashiers.
One other thing I wanted to mention is that if you are following the Tesla Life and you don't have your alert on, that you will get alerted when a new video, you probably missed what happened this Saturday when we had an interview with Rob Spreitzer, who is one of the, I guess, the longest mileage Model 3s in the fleet. He is now approaching 100,000 miles in his car in under 2 years. And we had an interview with him on Saturday to talk about what he thought of the car, what are the pros, what are the cons, why he got it, how he uses it. And it was very interesting to see what his responses were in the aspect that he uses his car for. So certainly you can take a look up that on YouTube as well.
Yeah, I watched it. It was very entertaining. I won't give it away, but there was an interesting twist on why his progress to 100,000 got slowed down right near the end.
Yes, definitely. And of course, if you're watching this at this point, please give us a thumbs up. Help us out. That gets us in front of the eyes of other YouTube viewers. And of course, subscribe. Give us a number. It's free to do so. Please, we would appreciate it. Thank you very much if you've already done so. And with that, let's wrap it up. Mr. Connor, any parting words?
Yeah. So in 2 hours from now, the president of the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association was invited to a YouTube Live and Facebook Watch Live discussion with a mayoral candidate for Portland to talk about the future of transportation in the Portland area. And that's pretty cool. The guy's name is Ozzy, and he's running for Portland mayor, and he wanted to have a chat with us electric car drivers about what we think should happen in our little area here. So, yeah, check that out if you're interested in a couple hours.
Excellent.
There you go.
Mr. Green, any parting words?
Yes. So last week I put up a video about the latest software update that hit any sort of mass push, 2020.12.6, which includes for most people with the new hardware the ability for the car to stop itself at traffic control devices. And I've got another update that I'll be making a video on soon because it's in the queue.
Excellent.
So you'll find that at youtube.com/KaceyGreen. That's KACEYGREEN.
Very good. Well, I thank you two gentlemen for joining us today. Another successful show. Let's roll the music, and what we'll do is we'll talk to you next week, and we'll find out at that time what is going on in the Tesla life.
Stay safe. Stay charged.
Thank you, Lee Moon. Appreciate the music. Good night, everyone.